And secondly, this is only a first draft. Okay, I wrote 40,000 words of this over my time at KSP, and I haven't edited it all. So I was looking at it just now, going, you know what, this just isn't as good as that last one, right? And it's not, because I haven't edited it yet. Okay, so you know, hopefully you'll give me a little bit of a break on the actual prose front.
We'll forgive you.
We'll forgive
you don't want us to criticise you like you do to your students.
That's right. Yes. Just say, oh, I did it at the last minute, you know. Yeah. All right.
I've got that still.
I was watching Rafters at the time.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so New Year's Day 2004, the quietest day of the year at the Booze Hound, as we all still called it, and presumably any other liquor outlet, the morning after the night before. Not that I'd done much by way of celebration after I'd finally gotten out of here after 10. There wasn't much at home for me now that Gillian had moved out. Even my friend Jimmy had gone back to his dad's the other day, leaving me to an empty house and a sink full of food-encrusted dishes. Copped a flogging last night, didn't we? Dan said. We surveyed the scene. Empty fridges, some with a lone stubby remaining unloved on the shelf, decimated wine displays, some providing an illusion of plenitude when in fact there was nothing behind the frontage. Pallets stripped, plastic wrapping strewn hastily down the side of the fridges. I hesitated to begin, balking at the enormity of the task. What did we take in the end? I asked him. Nearly 30 grand, he said. He paused. Not far for what I make in a year. Scotty will be happy. Scotty's the boss. Dressed in the black company polo shirt with the orange logo, as I was, Dan looked like a man cast adrift from something. He was doing the rounds with his clipboard, making notes on what needed ordering, practically everything, and I walked with him rather than facing the desolation of the fridges. Fuck me, we'll need at least 10 pallets, he said, tallying his list. You working Tuesday? That was the day the main order normally came in, and I was. Going to be well short this weekend. Can they deliver tomorrow? I asked. Tomorrow is Friday. Dan scratched the back of his skull with a pen. Maybe just the bare essentials. No way we'll get the main order. Warehouse won't be open today. Pallet of Colbies at least, maybe 2. I'll ring Scotty Dog. It occurred to me then that Scott might not appreciate a phone call this early on this particular day. It was just after 10:30 now, but then Dan was trying to show some initiative, and so, in my way, was I. It wasn't long, however, before I'd done all that I could to restock the fridges. The locals hadn't quite run us dry, but if you wanted a carton of Crownies or a 6-pack of Bean, you were shit out of luck. I tidied up for a while. Oh, that's actually a typo there. Dan was sitting at the computer in the office, clipboard on the desk in front of him. The paper was covered with near illegible scrawling. It wasn't much of an office, barely big enough for 2 people to sit in, and one of them would have to sit next to the safe. That's where I sat when I came in. The computer screen showed footage from the recently installed surveillance system. 6 cameras, all black and white. Nothing moved on any of them. Easy money today, eh? Dan said. I reckon. We'll pick up later, do you think? He shook his head. Nah, we'll do $1,000 today, 2 if we're lucky. A lot of people with sore heads out there, and I'm one of them. His eyes were glary. What time did you get to bed? I asked him. 3, 4? Can't remember. Far out, and yet to open up. Fuck that. Don't even get double time and a half like you. You're making more today than I am. He grinned. Nah, it's all good. I'll get a day off in lieu. He blew out his cheeks and closed his eyes, leaning his head against the wall. That was the thing about Dan. He always tried to put a positive spin on things. He got to work on New Year's Day instead of getting to spend the day in bed sleeping it off with his wife, while I got $42.28 an hour for sitting on my can talking to him. Want me to get you a Red Bull or something? I asked. I'll go around to the shops. Get on, you Gomes. He'd taken to calling me Gomez, or Gomes for short, after the Addams Family character whom I apparently resembled. I called him Dan. I got to my feet and he pulled out his wallet. There was a lone 10 in there. My shout, I said, waving the money away. I feel rich today. I'll make $10 in the time it takes me to walk there and back. Get us a packet of chips then, you lucky prick. Salt and vinegar. He reached for the ballpoint pen again. I dawdled my way to the mini supermarket around the corner, then spent what seemed like ages crawling the aisles for something to amuse us with. I finally settled on a jumbo box of gourmet jelly beans, as well as Dan's substitute hairs of the dog. When I got back, he was actually serving a customer. His face had lost its usual colour. What does he want, crazy bastard? I asked, not loud enough for the customer to hear from his busted-up jalopy. I put our shopping down on the counter. Bottle of Napoleon 1875, if you can believe that, Dan said. I grabbed the bottle from the shelf, scanned it, and went over to the rec. The customer was an old guy, and our first actual customer of the day at 11:05. He fumbled around for his wallet, found it, drew a blank in the actual currency department. I've got my key card in here somewhere, he rattled. It was mixed in with all of his other shitty cards. Library card, social services card and the like. He handed it to me. G.S. Adams was his name. You can scan it for me, can't you? You'll have to key in your pin. He reached out his hand for the bottle and I hesitated for a moment before giving it to him. Bring it here, would you? It's my knees, you see. I looked at the FPOS machine on the counter. It won't reach, mate. The old guy exhaled heavily. Takes me a while to get out, you see. Bring it here, Dan said, meaning the key card. I brought it over and he swiped it through the machine. Check or savings, he called out. Savings? But what's your pin? I don't know if I should. You want your brandy or not, Grandpa? He called it out and Dan keyed it in. I gave the man his card and he putted off, leaving us in a cloud of slowly dissipating monoxide. Did you catch the name on the card? I asked Dan. He grinned, picking up the shopping bag. It's Grandpa Gomez. That'll be you in 5 years, mate. I warned you about drinking that rough stuff. He reached into the bag for his drink. What'd you get us, lollies? We went back into the office. It was the easiest money I ever made. We sat there for hours trying out different combinations of jelly beans as per the instructions on the box. Dan's colour slowly returned, and by early afternoon he was his normal self again. Very occasionally I had to serve a car or walk in, but for the most part I just sat and listened as Dan regaled me with his tales of his exploits and misdeeds. European girls, right? He would say. When you're fucking them, they don't say, oh yeah, fuck me, or something like that. Know what they say? I didn't. They say, oh ja, uns. He even did the facial expressions. You've been to Europe a fair few times then? I asked, laughing. End of season trips, mate. Best fucking days of my life. He had this wistful expression on his face. You're a footy player or something, right? Scott had said something to me about this on the Thursday, but it hadn't otherwise been discussed. 85 AFL games, he said, folding his arms, for the Richmond Football Club, or something. That's cool, I said. I was into footy now, but I hadn't watched much of it in the 90s, and I couldn't recall having seen Dan play. What year did you retire? 99, he said. Played a bit of waffle in 2000. Mate, once your knees are fucked, they're fucked, alright? Yeah. My lower back felt stiff just thinking about that. Got a Rising Star nomination in my first year, he said. Didn't win it though. Those first 3 years were a ride, let me tell you. 95 especially. I remembered that the Eagles hadn't been in the grand final that year and I said so. That was all I remembered about it. Only year we made the finals, 95. Won a semi-final at the G. Imagine that, Gomes. Winning something in front of 90,000 people. Played in the prelim. Got massacred by Geelong, of course. And then they choked in the granny. He shook his head. Never made the finals again. Finished ninth a few times, but that was it. Over. Did my knee in 96 and never really made it back to where I'd been. I thought about that for a while, trying to imagine what it must feel like to do anything at all in front of 90,000 people. Yeah, I had a lot of good times, I said. You won that final? Yeah. He closed his eyes. Yeah, we did. You'd be an Eagles man, wouldn't you? Dockers. He nodded approvingly. That I can take. Bunch of fucking losers, like my mob. They made the finals last year, I protested. I went to their final. Yeah, and how did that go? He smiled. I actually bagged for the Tigers as a kid, you know. I was 7 years old in 1980. Yeah? I didn't understand the significance of this. You weren't even born then, were you? Last time the Tigers won the grand final. I had to admit that this was so. Made the finals twice since then, and I played in one of those years. That's got to count for something, right? Reckon it does, I said. Counts for plenty. Yeah, nah. Because if it did, I reckon I wouldn't be busting my hump in this place for 32 grand a year, would I? Yeah, you heard me. 32 grand I'm pulling here. I made more than that when I was 21. I was 22 now, and I wasn't making anything like that much, but I said nothing. I only had an English degree, of course. Maybe this will be the year, Dan said. You're in the Tiger. Always go see him when they play at Subi. As soon as the fixture comes out, I'm onto it. So when are they playing this year? No Dockers over here this year, just the Eagles. Round 10, I think. You can come along and be a Tiger for a day, buds. I'll lend you a scarf. Have us some gookies. What do you reckon? I said that I'd love to come with him, and I meant it. Beauty, he said, foraging around for the fixture he'd mislaid somewhere close at hand. May 29th, he said, reading from it. Saturday arvo. We'll have to get the day off work. You can probably get Scott to cover, yeah? Too easy, yeah. Lock it in. He looked at the clock on the screen. It was 1:45. What time are you knocking off? 2, I think. Make it Chinese dentist. I need some real food in me first. I'm going around to the chippy. My expression must have conveyed my confusion. 2:30, he said, baring his teeth.